Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Dragged Across Concrete. It's a movie starring Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn, and it's surprisingly not a comedy. Like, Vince Vaughn, he's actually a good actor. I know he most of the time does comedy, at least from what I've seen, but he's got some good acting chops otherwise, so I'm glad he got an opportunity to showcase that here. Anyway, so this movie is about those two guys, their partners, and it seems to be set in the time frame where, like, security cameras and video cameras and CCTV and everything like that aren't everywhere. But, so they're not everywhere, but there are cell phones and people are starting to take more videos on their cell phones. And so basically, Mel Gibson, he's not a terrible cop, but he's used to being a little bit more, well, shall we say, direct in his method of dealing with clearly criminal people and in order to get the information that he needs. So that doesn't go over well in some videos that people took with their cell phones, and so he and his partner get suspended. And right around then, turns out that he lives in a neighborhood that used to be good, but then bad elements kept moving in, and then they can't afford to move because he's just gotten suspended without pay for 6 weeks, and then also just in general they're probably, my guess is, what they paid for the house is not what the house is worth anymore, and they can't afford to sell it, and it also costs money to sell things, to sell a house, so it's a whole thing, and so he's trying to get out, and just doing what he can for his kid, who keeps on getting assaulted on the way home, and at some point they're like, well, it's going to be more than just a soda to the face at some point soon, once they realize she's a girl, and what can, you can fill in the blanks. So, he decides that, he's going to rob a, I'm assuming he drug dealer, from some amount of cash from, because as a cop for however 20 years longer or whatever, and you meet some of the criminal underbelly even if you can't convict them, But anywho, whole thing is he sets that up to try and rob somebody who's supposed to have a lot of cash and hopefully won't have a bunch of connections and make a connection with him and all that jazz. So he brings his partner along to at least the stakeout to get pattern of life on the bad guy where he's staying at. And then he brings his partner in to tell him, hey man, this is my plan. And his partner's like, that's the stupidest plan, this is terrible, but you know what? I'm your partner, and I'm in until I'm not. And that is, I think, a really good way of showing this, is that, it's a dumb idea, and he admits that, and he's like, we shouldn't be doing this, and it's stupid, but, I'm your partner, and I'm in until I'm not. And with that, he's like, it's dumb, but I'm committed 100% to doing this thing with you until I'm not, and then I'm out. And it's not like he's going to, it doesn't, the way he phrases it, and the way it takes place in the conversation, it's not like, hey, I'm out, and then I'm going to, shoot you in the back or betray you or whatever, but it's just there'll be a line, and there'll be a point that I won't cross, and then I'm out, and you are on your own to fix that. But until then, I'm with you 100% and do what is necessary. The other interesting thing is that if you've seen the movie Crash, and how there's all these really disparate storylines going on where you get little glimpses of them, and it's not until sort of the end of the movie where suddenly you see, okay, all of these people have met each other and they've crashed into each other. So they've come across each other and how they affect each of each other's storylines. So it is definitely not to that extent. But there are a couple of side, I don't want to say side characters or side missions, but there are other people that you see from their perspective and what they're doing, and it does come together and it does make sense, and the storylines connect in a good way. So if you liked kind of that aspect of Crash, but maybe not quite how obvious some of the things were, and how to hey, see, do you see? It's not quite that level with this movie of hey, we're gonna slap you in the face with what we're trying to get you to see. But you do get to see, hey, how did this person maybe get into this situation? How did this person? And yeah, I enjoyed that aspect. I thought that it filled in the story a bit more rather than if we had just followed Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson's characters. I liked that it provided more and it fleshed out the story and it made me care about the other characters, especially towards the later third of the movie. So it was a really enjoyable watch. It kept me engaged and interested, and it had good pacing, had good tension. The characters, it was clear where they were at, and it was it was subtle in a good way. Like they didn't have to slap you in the face with, "Hey, this is where I'm at and what I'm doing," type of thing. Like you got what you needed from the characters in a very little amount of time in a very logical way, and I like that. And for the most part, the things that occurred in this were quite realistic. I think that there was a couple things where it stretched a little bit of the believability, but it did have quite a few tense moments. Not quite to the level of Sicario, and you know what scene I'm talking about in Sicario? I think it's really hard to reach that level of tension, Sicario level. But it did make me think a little bit of Sicario when the tension levels were ratcheted. When I was like, ooh, what's gonna? Oh, is this gonna? Ooh. You know, it wasn't as high as Sicario, but because of the amount of tension that it was giving me, and because I cared about this, that, and the other thing that was going on, I was like, ooh, that makes me think of Sicario in a good way about how they're able to do with the tension. So really good job with delivering that tension to it. And yeah, the one thing, the major thing, I don't know if it's a major thing, but the thing that I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to call it a minor spoiler, so minor spoiler alert, is this movie is called Dragged Across Concrete. And at no point is anyone dragged across concrete. Not in the way that, like, when you see this movie and you're like, okay, they're going to do some bad shit. Like, I picture, you know, somebody getting tied up to something that was fast and then fast gone away while tied up and therefore dragged across concrete. You know, like you would see in some other films and movies and TV shows, whatever. But yeah, no, that never happened. Nobody was dragged across concrete in that way in this film, which mildly disappointing in that. I was kind of expecting that to happen. I was hoping, based on the name, that was going to be a thing. But, you know, other than that, like, the conclusion of the story was good. A lot of times these ones can be just disappointing in how they're completed. But in this movie, I thought that they ended it well and in a good enough manner. Like I said, there's a couple of things that I'm like, I don't know. But overall, I was still happy with it. I liked how it ended, which can make or break a movie of this type, and it was satisfactory for all the parties that I saw and what happened to them. So, yeah, fun time, fun movie, good tense, good action. Not like a huge amount of like martial arts type of action, but good. It's good. So that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Bye.